All right, and we are back to the Zoomvivor Deep Dive podcast, a CNC podcast. Today we have two co-hosts from my season of Z4. We have both Garret and Gage. How you guys doing today?
Doing pretty
Doing
good. How
good.
about you?
Doing well. So, just before we get into it, let's kind of fill our audience in. So, what have you guys been up to lately? Garret, if you want to start first.
All right, yeah. So I'm just kind of rounding out my physician assistant schooling. I've got one more rotation left, so just gonna spend this next month in the ER, and then I'm done.
Nice, nice. What's
I
what's
want to
up
hear
with
some
you?
ER stories at some point, but
Oh,
we'll
for
come back
sure.
to that.
For sure.
Those are my favorite fucking things. Well, what I've been up to, I just quit my job. I was a server at a restaurant.
Like tonight?
Yeah, I quit like a couple weeks ago, but today was my last day, so I'm done with it. So
Oh, shit.
it was a weight lift. So that's my exciting news. And then other than that, me and Garrett were just playing a game of Sequester where he got me voted out. So I'm a little bitter still.
It was an accident, I swear. I didn't know.
I know, but still.
So what was for the audience who doesn't know, what was your guys' placements then?
I placed 7th.
And then I got dragged at 3. Shout out, Kenneth. I forgive you.
Damn. Those are still two pretty good placements. Garrett, obviously you made it further in Sequester than you did Zoomvivor, but Gage, that's about where you also ended up in Zoomvivor, right?
Yeah, it averaged out. I would have been at least 6th again, but again, Garrett had to fuck up. So
I did not know that where the votes were going. I didn't. The communicate. I was in the same room as the guy you guys were voting. It just
in
didn't.
his defense, he was like belligerently drunk, so it's fine. But
All right, so we're going to hop into it now. So I think, just starting off, we're going to go, and talk right about the boot. So today we had the fall of a Titan. We had the fall of Bads. Now, Bads has been my favorite pretty much since the beginning. He's the one that really kicked off the game. He's managed to get himself in a pretty good position. And he had this very interesting plan tonight, which really was actually a smart plan. But the issue was the numbers truly weren't where he thought they were, as well as he gave it to Dakota, who kept it for himself. And it's a 50-50 advantage. So, he can always use it later and, 50-50 chance might get an idol for it, or he might not. So what did you guys think of the Bads boot?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go for it.
Oh, what again, I loved Bads. He's been playing great this whole game, so I was for sure bummed to see him go. That move, though, if it worked, it would have been amazing for sure. But there was just, to me, I was like, this isn't going to work as he was explaining it. There was just too many moving parts. And then it was depending on a 50-50 idol. So even if Dakota did what he asked, even if everyone was voting how he wanted, it still lands on a 50-50 idol. I don't know. To me, I was like, this isn't gonna happen, and so it wasn't surprising to me that how it ended. So,
yeah, I definitely agree with that. I feel like typically we see it happen in Survivor a lot. Sandra gives Denise the idol, stuff like that. Typically, if you're in the position where you're giving away an idol to somebody, it's gonna kind of come back and bite you because they know if they take you out, nobody knows about that idol, and they get off free. So I think that's exactly what Dakota did. It helped that Bing already wanted him out. So then it kind of helped that worked out. But then also, if you have to rely on a 50-50 chance to save your ally too, that's not really a plan you want to go with when you could easily, make it into a larger than 50% chance they survive.
Well, see, I think also the thing with that too, I actually have 2 points. One, with that, he still voted Erica. He still voted with, his presumed majority. Now, the thing is that if the 50-50 would have landed on for Erica to have the idol, she would have been in, and then they would have got their target out. But if it didn't happen, then Erica goes home anyway. And it's like, all right, I didn't rock really any boats because I told Dakota I would do what I, was going to do. And ultimately there's only two Americans left against a group of Filipinos. So, it was a very interesting plan, but also with that, I think in terms of all the idol plays for other players, there's only one time, I believe, in Zoomvivor history where it's actually worked out for a player, which was during our season where Boris played it for Karen, and together they made it to the merge, although unfortunately Boris did not make it very far. But yeah, I think every other player, it pretty much did not work out for. I mean, we literally just saw it happen in the episode before with Kat and Charlene.
Oh my God, that was heartbreaking. I
Oh,
felt
that
so
was
bad for
tough.
Charlene. And you're
Yeah.
like, oh, like what a great ally to give away that idol. But then, damn, it had to hit her on the other tribal. That's so tough.
I know. Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel that. Yeah, Charlene was like up until that episode, like I was really rooting for Charlene. I thought she was gonna have it in the bag, and then God, I felt terrible.
I felt, I mean, I feel really bad for Charlene, but I also feel really bad for Kat. And we saw right at the beginning of the episode, it looked like she was going to cry, or I think she might have even cried, because I mean, that's a pretty big sacrifice. But I mean, Charlene played, she played her hand to the best of her ability. I don't really think there was much she could have done, because at the end of the day, it would have been she's going home or Kat's going home. And I think she might have thought she had a better grasp on it. But, it was very unfortunate. But yeah, so I mean, last episode aside, coming back to this episode, we saw that one of the big players in this episode, and someone who's kind of had a sort of a secret war, silent war, whatever you want to call it, with Bads, is Bing. So what's your make on Bing this season?
Bing has been my winner pick since the first couple episodes. Like I kind of like to wait a couple episodes to decide who I'm thinking. And I was definitely feeling great about Bing just because I felt like she's always kind of, Bads has been on top, but Bing's has always like kind of known what's going on and figured out what he's doing. And I was waiting for the moment that she was going to be able to take him down. And it's nice. I'm impressed here. So I'm ready to see how she can make it through, because it seems like Kenneth's mad. And I mean, I definitely learned from this sequester that Kenneth can do some damage. So
I feel that. Yeah, like it seems like for me, each episode, I just root for Bing even more. Like, really, I think the kicker for me was the episode where she like built the stack of cards, even though that wasn't her job, I think, in like that challenge. Like she was the cup person. And she just like her trimates could not build these like 2-story like card things. And then she just builds like a goddamn castle. I was living for it. And that was at that point, I was like, Bing, I want you to win just for that. I loved it. It was so good.
Yeah, she is absolutely great. I mean, I've liked her pretty much since the beginning as well. And now that my favorite player is out, and he was taken out, in part by my second favorite player, like Bing is up there. There's just no comparison. She's absolutely amazing. And I mean, from what I've heard about her history in the org community, she is a powerful player. I hear pretty much always makes it far. I think in like an all-star season, she might have gotten out pretty early. But other than that, I've heard great things about her game. But yeah, I cannot wait to see the damage she's going to cause.
For sure. Yeah, to me, it's like her and Dakota, I think, are my two picks that I think are most likely to win this at this point.
I agree. Dakota was my other one for sure.
So I guess, with Dakota, currently being the topic, what do you make of Dakota? Because obviously, as we already said, he kept the 50-50 advantage for himself. As far as I know, no one knew about the 50-50 advantage except for Bads, and now the only person that really knows it is Dakota. So what's your make on Dakota for this game?
I mean, just this episode alone, great move. Overall, like I think he's done really well. Everyone has like little hiccups and stuff, and like the game is tough, but overall, like I think he's done really well in terms of like managing like where he is in the game, managing his alliance members. He's done a fantastic job.
Yeah, I definitely agree about that. I think the move today was fantastic. I don't know who else knows. I know Bads knew about it. Maybe Erica. I'm not sure if he told Erica about the 50-50 coin. But yeah, I think damage control wise, I'm insanely impressed with how he's managed to come back from like voting out Kira to voting out Manu, and then to voting out Erica. And then now she's like his ride or die again. Like I'm impressed with the way he's been handling everything with it all. So I definitely think, and you can tell strategic chops are there with the way he flipped it on Bads today to run away with that 50-50. So,
I mean, I think this might be one of his better moves in the game, because I think, Dakota has been a dominant figure, no doubt about it. He's overall managed to keep his threat level checked. But you got to admit, though, Dakota has fucked up royally so many times. I mean, you listed a couple of the people, Garrett, but let's look at it. It's Simon, it's Kira, it's Manu, it's Sherry, not giving Sherry the idol, but then the next episode he was going to give it to Erica, but then he took it back, which then once again, let's go back for a second. He betrayed Erica, although for some reason Erica's still with him. He is fucking people over. And now we are at the point where we're in the jury phase. We have 3 jury members right now. And, I don't know if you watched the Afterthoughts podcast when I had Kostas on, but, he said that he didn't exactly trust him after everything that happened with him in the beginning of the game, where he left him out of the vote. So, and then also, Bad seems really pissed. I think actually he seems to be the most pissed off out of anyone that's been voted out in the merge so far. So we know at least 2 of the 3 people are pretty pissed off at Dakota. Dakota's not doing a good job jury management, which I like to kind of dive into each of the players of this game. And I hear that's actually a common theme for Dakota's games. He does not jury manage well.
That's really interesting. I hadn't thought about it from a jury management perspective, and I think you could be 100% right about that. If people are kind of pissed post-game about it, then they're probably pissed when they're voting if he makes it that far. So I definitely think that's interesting. I think the big thing I am high on him for, though, is the fact that even though he has made these like kind of fuck-ups, he is like in the state of the game, nobody's looking at him for it. Like nobody's looking at it and being like, this guy is playing. The fact that he's been able to kind of bury him under the radar and somehow be still looked at as this underdog who needs to be given an idol this episode. Like, stuff like that is just like, damn, I don't know how he's doing all this that we're seeing, but they don't see it at all. And that's where I'm like, maybe he can convince some people in the end, but also sounds like it's going to be an uphill battle based on these, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, you know what? It's like, it's not about how many times you fall. It's about how you get up, and it's how you continue to play the game. And like, he's been able to like come back and switch it around. Like, just like we were talking about with Erica, he voted her out. And then, normally after that happens, someone's going to be real bitter about that. They don't want to work with you. But like, it seemed like he had no problem with getting Erica back on his side. So to me, that's very impressive.
Yeah.
And then,
No, good. Yeah.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. I had nothing else to say.
I mean, we're going to get to Erica in a second, especially, I want your input on this, Garrett. But yeah, I think with Dakota, like with him kind of being in the positions that he's been in with the people that he fucked over, and now him not really actually being in a dominant alliance, it could catch up to him. He could be gone next episode. He might make it 2 more and he could be gone. You don't know. Like he's not playing the best game. Still by that, he's playing one of the better games, I could argue. But yeah, he's been playing a pretty big villains game too, a sloppy villains game at that. But yeah, let's jump to Erica really quick. So Garrett, you obviously are friends with Erica in real life, correct?
Yes.
Did you grow up with her? You meet her through the org community? I don't really
so
know.
we're friends in college, kind of same friend group, kind of all hang out. So yeah, and then I've also played Survivor with her a little bit just through our kind of beer Survivor thing that we do. But yeah, so I've kind of seen the whole mix of her and playing Survivor. So
okay, so then you should have some pretty good input when it comes to Erica. I'll say this, we'll kind of shift it to Gage really quick and we'll end on you for Erica. But at least with me, with Erica, like, I feel like there should have been a number of red flags. It could be we see that she's very social. It could be that she's very or too trusting more so, but I don't really understand why she's with Dakota. She might think that she has to be with him because he's the only other American. I really don't know. I think Erica is playing a decent game, but I can't quite fit the pieces together for her, at least at this point,
Yeah, I totally feel you on that. Like exactly what you said. I feel like she has a strong social presence, but at the same time, it doesn't seem like she's made those connections with people like Kenneth, like Kanita, like Kat. Actually, I think she had a thing with Kat, but like, there's a lot of people it doesn't seem like she doesn't have as strong of a connection with. So yeah, it seems like with her, it's really just Dakota. But then at the same time, based on what other people are saying, it kind of seems like no one really views her as a threat because she hasn't really made any big moves, which is understandable. So it seems like to me, I could see her being like final 3, final 2 with almost anyone left. Like it seems like at this point, people are going to want to bring her there, and like she seems great, and like I'm really enjoying her as a character, but I'm worried that I think that's kind of like where her game is going, you know?
So aside from you enjoying her as a character, are you saying that she's like, you think she's a goat or she'll be a goat?
Potentially, like if she does, I mean, that's the thing. I haven't really seen a move that I could really pinpoint and say, you know, like Erica was like a key figure in making that happen. She seems to have like gone along into the votes, which, like, you know, when it's your first game, like I don't know like the extent that she's played this. I know Garrett has mentioned some like beer survivor and stuff like that. But like with Oregon, things like that, you know, sometimes it's a learning experience, and maybe she just kind of got caught up in it. You know, there's no fault of her own, really.
Yeah, and one last thing, and then I'll leave it to you, Garrett. I mean, for Erica, it's not too late. I mean, look at the actual game of Survivor. How many times, how many winners do you have who pick up their game somewhere halfway through the merge and just sweep the second half of the merge? And usually, at least in the real Survivor, it happens around the loved ones visit. It gives that, you know, those players that extra jolt to do what they need to do to get to the end. And sometimes they're the more recent moves, they're the more relevant moves, and that's all you need. So, I mean, it's not too late for any of these people, especially Erica.
Yeah, and I definitely agree on that. I think all the takes given so far are pretty along the same lines of what I think. I think you've expressed previously on these podcasts that you think kind of social awareness is more of her issue, where I think, especially in terms of the game of Survivor, I do think game awareness has always been her weak spot. And I think her social game's good because we're seeing that she's a target every round. But she's always getting enough votes to stay. And like the fact that she was able to flip Costas from being, you know, 100% against her to like 100% ride or die with her, like stuff like that. You can see her social game is good, but like her awareness of what else is going on, you're like, you know, she voted Brian when her own name was out and stuff like that. So it's just like, sometimes I feel like she's not always figuring out what's actually going on past the surface level of what people are telling her. But yeah, I definitely think that she's been a fun character to watch. I agree with Gage where I think I could see her being, you know, taken as one of the last couple spots. And I mean, she's a good talker. Maybe she can convince people if she makes it to the end. But I could definitely see that being a possibility. But also, I mean, she has been getting votes every time. So like she could also just be the easy vote. Her name's been out for so long that eventually, if your name's out every round, it might hit. So
yeah, she's kind of a cat with 9 lives, really.
I mean, definitely. And that kind of story too might help her in the end too. Like if she can make it there, then maybe even if we haven't seen her do like an individual move, I mean, she could easily just pitch the fact that she survived round after round. And to some degree, people have to respect that.
Yeah. You know what? I actually just had a thought like about 30 seconds ago while you were talking. Has she made it farther than you?
Yes, she definitely did.
How do you feel about that?
Very far.
I'm cool with it. I'm cool with it. Like when I went out at 11, I told myself like, you know what? I would rather go out here swinging than like get taken further because I didn't try to take my shot at Rain. And I think that's the big thing that I think that's maybe one thing I'm worried about with Erica's game right now, because I think she thinks her and Dakota's duo is more of a me and Gage duo where we're both working together, making decisions together, etc. Where I think it might be more of a Rain and I duo where like Dakota, I think is very much, he wants to be in control of it and he wants to be the only one making the decisions. And it seems like she's kind of down to go with it. And obviously we're only getting the edited content too. Like I don't know how much of a say she's had in these decisions so far, like the most recent one. Don't know how in the loop she was with it, but like I just feel like it'll be interesting to see, you know, if she's willing to cut him further or not, because right now I think that's my concern with that relationship.
Yeah. I mean, I think I could see that to an extent. And you know, I was just teasing you about the whole Erica and you thing. I think you had a great move, and I mean, you were one of the few people that was going to actually really take out, you know, the opposition. And it would have been awesome if you would have done it, but I mean, Rain steamrolled the whole game. But anyway, I mean, that aside, we talked about that a million times.
I tried real hard.
You were close.
I mean, you made it far. You made it far as shit. You were the last standing American. So.
I was stumping for
I'm interested to see who that's going to be this season. Who's going to get the Gage title, you know?
Yeah, dude, there's so many fucking Filipinos this season. Half the cast was Filipino.
Yeah, definitely.
But, I mean, it seems like we have some, international crossings. So, who knows what can happen. But I mean, obviously, they're still vastly outnumbered right now.
Yeah,
So,
for sure. But at the same time, it's been very different than I'd say like our season. Like there was a much clearer like divide with like Americans versus Filipinos and alliances that formed based off that than this season. It's been a lot more fluid. I've really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I
yeah.
definitely agree. I feel like some of the alliances formed, like we kind of saw, like at first, there was the four Americans ended up kind of working together with Kira, Erica, Sherry, and Dakota, and then we've kind of seen, like the Bisaya alliance. We've seen like a bunch of different ones that like kind of were all Filipino, but I think they were more all Filipino because of like just other circumstances because there was so many rather than like it being, let's work together because we're Filipino. And I feel like they all had major cracks, which I mean, we just saw one blow up. So,
Yeah. I mean, obviously, one of the big things that they've discussed in this season was, the Philippines. I think they actually said that statistic this episode. The Philippines is made up of like, what do they say, like over 7,000 islands or something like that, broken up
Yeah.
into three main regions, which we obviously heard of the Bisaya Alliance. So that was the big region. But anyway, kind of enough about that. Let's move on to Kat for a second. Now, Kat was on the chopping block. She was all set to go home last week, and she had the idol. Obviously, it saved her. And now this week, she won immunity. I mean, I think that we've had some, nice confessionals, and she won quick. The edit does not show it. The edit for the challenge is very weird, but when we were on production for that, I'm telling you, Kat won that thing within 15 seconds. It was not long. She was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it was done. And we were like, oh, okay. But I mean, there were a couple people that were behind her too. So what do you think about Kat, especially with her kind of turning her luck around?
I mean, talk about Kat like with 9 lives, like she for sure has gone through at least 2 of them apparently. But yeah, I was kind of sleeping on Kat, I think, like towards the beginning of the season. I can't remember like the extent of what her edit was, but maybe that's more of just me. But definitely like since merges happened, she's like really stood out to me. And I've definitely enjoyed her. Like last episode, I thought she was going, and that was insane. I have nothing but respect. So I'm really excited to see like what she's gonna pull next to move forward.
Yeah.
absolutely same too. Like, I feel like at the beginning, I was kind of questioning her stake in the future once she flipped on Danny, because I was just like, having a record for flipping early does not usually pan out for people, But then I feel like, since then she's been doing great. She like reintegrated well. She was able to get that idol from Charlene, save herself, and then win immunity here. And I mean, if she can keep up these immunities and like keep reintegrating, because now there should be a lot of extra drama going on with Bing blindsiding Bads. She could slide far. And if she can make it to the end, she at least has one person who's going to be 100% pulling for her in the jury. And I mean, the jury's such a long portion for everybody going on. Like I was like the third one in at my season. And so like literally there's so much talk that goes on about the players. Having an early juror be on your side is huge, because then you can kind of set the tone of the jury in favor of your person. So I definitely think that could really help her out.
Yeah, I think even with the whole Danny thing, which I think Danny was pretty upset about that. I felt so bad for Danny. I don't really think anyone dislikes her, has any hard feelings towards her. And yeah, you do have someone who obviously pretty much sacrificed their entire game. So yeah, you're right. I mean, that really does set the whole tone for the jury. And if she makes it to the end, that could be a game changer. But I was going to make another point about Kat. Oh, also just kind of a little tidbit. I was just looking through my notes. I actually really like, within Kat's confessionals, I feel like you get so much raw emotion from her that you don't necessarily get from everyone else. I mean, I think you've seen her on a couple occasions get really teary eyed. And I really like that. It really does add, an extra bit of emotion. And we obviously have the instrumentals coming in that kind of helps us, feel that as well.
Yeah,
Oh, for sure.
definitely.
The
I really
dramatic
appreciate.
music. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. The editing has been like great this season with the music, with the oh my God, the storytelling. I've been a huge fan.
Yeah. I mean, I think, in the previous seasons, they've only had like a couple tracks that they just reused, but we have so much more this season. It helps, create more dynamic storytelling. So I really, really love that. Um, so do we have any other players that we really want to cover in this episode? I think we covered at least all the major players. You guys have any notes about, Kanita, Kenneth? I think those were the only two that we didn't really cover.
I don't have any notes about them, but I'm a big fan of both of them as characters right now. I'm excited to see. I think we're about to start seeing more game from Kenneth next episode, based on the preview. So I'm really excited to see that now. But yeah, both of them have been great though. Kenneth's voting confessionals have had me dying every time. Kanita's just been a really fun person to root for too, but she's always just kind of so positive with the camera and stuff like that. So definitely really like both of them.
I feel that. Yeah, Kanita's been so sweet. I am rooting for her so bad. I would love to see her make it to the end. And then yeah, like Ken, like I'm excited to see that fire under him now that he's been blindsided like this. It's definitely going to be very interesting to watch. And then Brian, I don't know where Brian stands at this point. Like he's doing well, but at the same time, I question if he's gonna stand out enough to like pull a third win,
Yeah, it's crazy what his record is. Like that was crazy hearing it. And like, I mean, you can tell though, guy's like a silent assassin, I feel like. I don't know. I feel he's definitely strong. I'm waiting to see more from him, I guess, just to see what else he does. But like, I mean, even the way he came in and like got him to take out Manu, basically, like that was impressive as hell. Like, because I would have thought Sherry, Manu, and Dakota would have been locked. So I feel like we've already seen bits like that from him. I'm just curious how it's going to go from here to Endgame now.
I mean, Brian, you've got to give him credit for it. My somewhat off note, but my mom had eye surgery, so she's not been able to watch most of the season. So she just started catching up today, and she like blew through most of the season. And she loves Brian. And she was even mentioning, he's a really smart player because you had that whole episode where they did get Manu out, and he talks about how he's kind of playing like, oh, mommy sort of thing to Sherry. So Sherry and Dakota saved him. And then the next episode, he fucking got rid of Sherry. He was part of getting rid of Sherry. I mean, he's won twice before. He's smart. He's been very closely locked in with Bing. He's kind of like a silent partner with Bing. So if anything does potentially go awry in the future, it could be Bing taking the heat, not him. So the big thing with him is if he makes it to the final 2 or 3, whatever the hell it is, it will be for this season. It's a matter of, can he convince the jury that the moves he made were really the moves he made?
And I think he could have a decent shot at that, because I think in that case, Bing would be on the jury too and would have seen it, working with him like that. And then Costas as well. I think similarly to how Charlene, I think, is going to be like a huge stump for Kat. I think Costas will do the same for Brian based on their exile time. And at first I was like, wow, I was amazed at how big that connection was just for being on exile together. But then one of them explained it in one of the more recent episodes, how they were like talking for like an hour and a half there. And I was, 100% I get why that's the case then, because like, yeah, you're with one person for an hour and a half. That's gonna like.
For sure. Yeah, it's really impressive. Like I forgot how old he is, but he's like a young Filipino kid, and he's done like a really good 19. Job. Yeah, he's done such a great job of like integrating and making these bonds with Costas, who's from Greek, and Sherry, who's like a middle-aged woman in America. Vastly different people with different life experiences. So it's really impressive to watch.
Just looking over my notes, yeah, Brian is 19. 19. Wow. Fucking won 2 games before. It's just insane.
It's wild.
I'm also 0 for 5, so.
Yeah, I mean, I lost my 2, so I'm not any better. Also, just kind of looking over another note, I meant to say it earlier when we were talking about Bads. I'm really curious, and I'm hoping Bads comes on my Afterthoughts podcast, but why is it exactly that he didn't play his idol? He said that he thought that it might have been just a selfish move of Dakota, but I mean, I think I would have gotten paranoid just enough that I would have played mine.
Yeah, it's so tough. I can't fault him for like how he played, but yeah, like when he had such like a set game like that, and then it's like he got the red flag. He got, like you said, that Dakota didn't play the thing. That should be like a beginning question mark of like, oh geez, like maybe this isn't going how I think it is. And like, you still have an idol. If you play it, you're at least making 7. You can still find another idol. So it's tough, but yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree on that. Like, it's easy to say in hindsight what he should have done, but like at the same time, like, I mean, he knew the signal was that Dakota was gonna play the idol on Erica, and then when that doesn't happen, you should know at least what you thought was gonna happen isn't happening, and then think what else could. And at that point, you have an idol, you might as well play it. Like, I don't know. I'm much more on the side of play your idols than hold on to them, because I mean, we've seen even with Costas this season, he held on to it thinking that Erica was going to get the vote and he wouldn't need it, and he took that risk and had to face the wheel, and so you just never know. Like, I feel like you just got to play your idols.
Yeah, there's been a lot of misplay of idols this season. It's rough to see.
Yeah. And it's even worse. I mentioned it a few podcasts ago, but the whole thing with Brian using his fractured idol. Fractured idol. It's a shame that he didn't bring it into the merge, because they could have brought it together, him and Kostas, because they already had a really close relationship, and it could have been a complete immunity idol. But yeah, the season
that would have been really interesting too, because if that's the case, Kostas had his and they had that, they could have made everybody immune that tribal. Because they could have combined those, played it for Erica, Costas played on himself, and then what would happen?
It gets reset back.
Would everyone then like lose their immunity then, and then it's just a free for all?
That's what I would imagine. I don't think that's ever happened in Survivor history. And
I bet Brian would keep his like necklace.
His challenge win he would have definitely kept. So it would have been
probably that would have been tragic actually, because they probably would have just agreed to vote Kat again, and then Charlene and Kat would both join the jury after Charlene gave Kat the idol, and then that would have been, oh my god, that would have been sad. I think I would have cried at that one. So happy that didn't happen, even though I do love Costas. So
So I think we've pretty much hit all of the major notes. So I kind of want to move on to our next segment, which is the Zoomy Award. For those who don't know, the Zoomy Award is the player of the episode. Now, generally speaking, for at least myself, the Zoomy Award goes to the player who played the best in this episode. And that could still be someone who got out. And I think I almost did that last episode. But everyone's criteria is a little bit different. We also had a case where Colin gave it to Sherry for the entertainment value of the episode. So we're going to start off with you, Garrett, if you're ready. If not, Gage, who do you think deserves the Zoomy for this episode?
All right. So as much as I want to give it to my winner pick Bing, I'm going to have to give it to Dakota for this one, because I think Bing's going to have to deal with the aftermath of this, where Dakota, nobody can blame him and Erica for voting out Bads when Erica was the target. So like, he's not going to have to deal with the aftermath, and he walked away with an idol, a 50-50 idol, but still an idol, where Bing is at least going to have to deal with the aftermath of this. So I think Dakota edges her out a little bit, but it was so satisfying watching her finally get her revenge.
That's fair. That's right. I was going back and forth between Dakota and Bing as well. So because you chose Dakota, I'm choosing Bing, because it seems like she really orchestrated this move to take out Bads, and that's a badass move. So game respects game. So I got to give her for that.
Bing. Got to give it to my girl. Got to give it to her. But I completely get where you're coming from, Garrett. I think Dakota would have probably been my second pick. But I think, there's always been that like almost silent war between Bing and Bads. And today we saw the conclusion of it.
Definitely.
So, I mean, plus I think she's been playing a great game pretty much from the beginning. So I think this was I just got to give it to her. And I mean, everything's been stated for her. But like I said, I think Dakota is still a very fair one. He would have been my backup, and then Kat would have maybe even been my third, because I mean, you got to give it to her. She was on the chopping block and she had her ass saved by getting an idol. Well, even though that was last episode, and she turned it around. Now she's probably not even the focus.
Oh yeah. After this one, there's no way. Like, I think based on the preview, at least, it looks like maybe we're going to get some Kenneth versus Bing going on. So
yeah, I mean, there's a lot that we've got to probably see in the next episode. We just get those little tiny tidbits in the previews. So I guess now with the Zoomy Award over, do either of you guys have any final thoughts for the podcast?
Nothing huge. It's just been a great season. Excited to watch how it all plays out.
For sure. Yeah, same. It's been such a joy to watch. And I'm sure you've covered this before, but I've really loved watching the season play out using the Zoom breakout room format. It's been so much fun seeing people like interact through that, rather than, you get so much more content that way. And it's been a pleasure to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. And I am sure they are probably going to continue to do that for the future seasons. And I think I did actually say in a podcast before, but the rules kind of slightly changed, so there are times where people are kind of forced to actually, socialize, and times where you can't use Messenger, because obviously that's a huge part of the strategizing. So you really get to utilize those breakout rooms. So yeah, it is a really interesting new dynamic to this season. But I guess on that note, that's it. Thank you everyone for tuning in. If you can like, comment, and subscribe to the podcast, that'd be greatly appreciated. And just take a moment to please share it. I'd greatly appreciate that. Thanks to my guests, Garret and Gage. And on that note, everyone have a good night.